Tonight on Y News. Last-minute buyers rush to firecracker stores in Bukawi, Bulacan, causing heavy traffic in the area. The Department of Health reports latest count of firecracker-related incidents, now totaling to 116.
President Rodrigo Duterte visits and gives financial assistance to blast victims in Hilongos, Leyte. The Department of Labor and Employment fast-tracks assistance to displaced workers due to Typhoon Nina.
The Thai government warns against a hoax message about Thai canned food contaminated with HIV. And photographers and tourists enjoy a magnificent sight of icicle-laden Hupu waterfall in northwest China.
Good evening. As opposed to tradition, the Armed Forces of the Philippines will no longer seal the firearms of military personnel. However, AFP calls for the public to help by reporting trigger-happy soldiers. Brian De Paz will tell us why.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines urges the public to report to them any soldiers they will see firing their guns this holiday break.
Kung meron po kayong sundalo na alam na nandyan na siya nagpaputok, hinihikayat po namin kayo na gumawa po kayo ng kaukulang report at magawa natin ang investigasyon.
This after the AFP decides not to seal the soldiers' service firearms for the holiday revelry, just like what the Philippine National Police does. The AFP explains that the move shows that soldiers are self-disciplined and have self-control, especially since they know that guns are not to be used for senseless firing. However, AFP Public Affairs Chief Lieutenant Colonel Edgar Arevalo says AFP Chief of Staff General Eduardo Años strictly orders to penalize soldiers who will violate the said directive.
The penalty is stiff, dismissal from the service. So, ang atin po mga kasundaluhan, we believe that they are disciplined and they are not going to resort to illegal discharge of firearms.
Although there is no threat of terrorism in the country, the AFP appealed to the public to be on alert in crowded places and to immediately report to authorities any suspicious individuals or items. Brian De Paz, UNTV News and Rescue Camp Aguinaldo.
The first ever video infomercial against firecrackers is already uploaded on the Facebook account of the Philippine National Police. The main characters in the video are PNP Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa and President Rodrigo Duterte. The video shows prohibited and non-prohibited firecrackers. PNP also plans to air the infomercial on television so that viewers could watch it, especially the children.
Ang intensyon natin is turuan yung mga bata kung ano yung dapat nilang gawin sa pagsalubong ng bagong taon, ano yung hindi pwedeng gamiting paputok, tsaka yung pwedeng gamiting...
The Department of Health issues the latest count of firecracker-related incidents, which is now at 116 cases. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Based on the latest data provided by the Department of Health, the number of firecracker victims from December 21 until today has already reached 116 individuals. 108 of the victims are males aged 3 to 62 years old. 89 or 78% of the overall number are minors aged 15 years old and below. Many of the victims are from the National Capital Region, particularly in Manila and in Quezon City. 69 of the injuries are due to the use of piccolo, which is among the most prohibited firecrackers. 21 sustained eye injuries, while another 21 were just bystanders who were accidentally hit by firecrackers. The Department of Health hopes that there will be no additional injury, especially during the weekend celebration.
Sana walang fatalities na makita tayo hanggang sa January 5, which is the end of the reporting period.
We emphasize the safe celebration.
Aside from firecracker-related injuries, DOH also appeals to gun owners and uniformed servicemen not to use their firearms in merrymaking. DOH assures that the PNP is closely monitoring against indiscriminate firing.
Stray bullets, of course, the PNP is also monitoring the stray bullet injuries.
Meanwhile, DOH resumed its inspection of hospitals to check if they are prepared to accept patients during the New Year revelry. This afternoon, DOH checked Valenzuela Medical Center and the National Children's Hospital in Quezon City. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Department of Health.
Last-minute buyers of firecrackers are causing heavy traffic in Bocaue, Bulacan. Despite the soar in the prices of firecrackers, more buyers continue to flock crowded stores to buy items for their year-end revelry. Most of them are from Metro Manila bound for the provinces. Personnel of the Philippine National Police remain in position within the vicinity to monitor lawless acts. Meanwhile, authorities remind the public to buy products only with the Philippine Standard seal to guarantee the safety and legality of the firecrackers.
The Philippine National Police deploy more than 15 personnel on a 24-hour duty starting today. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
Police authorities have ensured the safety of passengers at the Araneta bus terminal in Cubao. More than 15 policemen are on duty 24 hours to monitor the safety and security of arriving passengers. Baggages are being inspected for banned items such as bladed weapons, firecrackers, and flammable materials.
Vigilant pa rin kami, no? At lagi umikot yung aming mga police, no? At yung mga security guard ay aming state supervise, no? Kung tama yung kanilang ginagawang mga pag-inspection sa mga bagahe.
Police says there were no untoward incident reported aside from few passengers who complained of nausea due to heat and exhaustion.
Nakaka-stress po kasi sobrang siksikan din po at wala din pong talagang dapat comfortable po na ano. Wala pong talagang proper na mauupuan. Mas maganda din po talaga yung may kaayusan.
Some passengers also complain of delayed arrival of buses while some demand for refunds for cancelled travels.
Sabi ng taga-DLTV, madidili lang daw po yung biyahe. Wala po silang binibigay na saktong oras eh. Yung sa amin lang, baka naman mag-aantay kami sa wala. 23 pa kami nagpa-reserve ng ticket eh.
Hindi po natuloy kahapon dapat ang sakay hindi pa nakasakay. Oo, sabi kanina magre-refund, alas 8 pa sinasabi hanggang ngayon wala.
An officer of the Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB stationed in the terminal says traffic has been a common cause of the delayed arrival of buses. Hence, they have issued a special permit to bus lines so that more passengers will be accommodated until January 3. Joyce Balancho, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Motorists are experiencing light to moderate traffic in several major roads in Metro Manila. Aiko Miguel is at Delta Quezon Avenue in Quezon City to tell us why live. Go ahead, Aiko.
Yes, good evening, Darlene. Motorists flying in both lanes along EDSA will not experience traffic congestion. Passengers are also set to travel to their destination this holiday break. It will be convenient for them to travel since most of the major roads along Metro Manila are in light to moderate traffic. Let's take a look first at the traffic situation along Quezon Avenue. Expect on both lanes of Balintawak, there is traffic buildup in the area since the road there is near NLEX where buses enter going to provinces. Along the southbound lane of Kaingin Road, Muñoz, Bansalangin, and North Avenue, vehicles can move freely because traffic is moderate there. Still, there is a road closure at EDSA Muñoz intersection since October 12 until further notice. Motorists are advised to take U-slot instead. Moderate traffic is also experienced along the southbound of Timog, Kamuning, and in both lanes of New York Nepa Q-Mart, Monte de Piedad, and in Aurora Boulevard. It will also be beneficial for our travelers to fly along the southbound of MacArthur Farmers, P. Tuazon, Main Avenue, Santolan, White Plains, Connecticut, Ortigas Avenue, SM Boulevard, and in Reliance. But motorists should expect heavy traffic along the northbound of MacArthur Farmers, Pitwazon, Main Avenue, Santolan, and in White Plains, Connecticut. There was an unloading of 8 new train wagon for MRT3 at Taft Avenue Station EDSA southbound at 8 a.m. this morning. Expect moderate to heavy traffic along the area. Expect moderate to heavy traffic also at EDSA Tramo northbound due to bus extraction as of 6:30 p.m. 2 lanes are still occupied. There is also an ongoing Skyway Stage 3 works along Osmeña Highway and Quirino Avenue. Meanwhile, you can view in your TV screens the live traffic points. From EDSA Bagong Barrio going to Monumento, traffic is light in the area. And from EDSA Bagong Barrio going to Balintawak, Muñoz, there is also light traffic in the area. From Marcos Highway, Barangay de la Paz, Pasig City, going to Antipolo, expect traffic congestion in the area. And from that area to Cubao, there is also heavy traffic. From Monumento MacArthur Highway, going to Malanday, Valenzuela City, moderate traffic is in the area. And from Monumento MacArthur Highway, going to Recto Avenue, moderate traffic can be experienced in the area. Motorcycles traversing EDSA and C5 can now use the leftmost lane and the existing motorcycle lanes. So basically, motorcycles are now allowed to use 2 lanes. However, motorcyclists traversing Macapagal Boulevard and Commonwealth Avenue will still be using the designated motorcycle lanes. Darlene, tomorrow is December 31, the last day of the year 2016, and we are reminding our motorists that the number coding scheme will still be lifted until January 3, 2017, Tuesday. We are also reminding motorists to always keep your eyes on the road while driving and to obey traffic rules. We are all hoping for a better traffic situation by 2017, and we are all hoping to see you all by 2017, God willing. That is the latest traffic update. Back to you, Darlene.
Thank you, Aiko, and that's Aiko Miguel reporting live from Delta Quezon Avenue.
Next in Y News. President Rodrigo Duterte leads a simple ceremony in celebration of Rizal Day.
The Duterte administration prepares for its first head of state visitor, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe.
And the Thai government denies rumors of Thai canned food contaminated with HIV virus.
Y News will be right back. The newsmakers this year is the landmark ruling of the International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea on the West Philippine Sea dispute in favor of the Philippines. Despite the ruling, China continues its activities on the disputed islands.
The Philippines welcomes the issuance today of the award by the Arbitral Tribunal constituted by the Permanent Court of Arbitration under Annex 7 of the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas, or UNCLOS, on the arbitration proceedings initiated by the Philippines with regard to the South China Sea.
Let us trace back the developments on the West Philippine Sea dispute in Repaso 2016.
Reviving chivalry. The newsmen of UNTV News and Rescue.
President Rodrigo Duterte leads the simple ceremonies for today's Rizal Day celebration. He also appeals to the public to emulate Rizal's traits for genuine change in the country. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
It is my honor to meet you guys, and I said, how I wish I could do one.
You are.
These are the words of President Rodrigo Duterte upon meeting personally the descendants of our national hero Dr. Jose Rizal in Rizal Park this morning. If in the past our forefathers were controlled by foreign subjugators, now for President Duterte, people are enslaved by drug addiction.
Idiots in this country are making slaves of our... When they get into the addiction, practically slavery to the chemical. That's why I'm galit.
Thank you. Thank you. Very happy about that. That's very good. No, you have the spirit. Thank you.
What I assure you, what I've said to the other side, okay na tayo.
Meanwhile, the president still has an appeal to the public. In an official statement released by Malacanang for the 120th commemoration of Rizal's martyrdom, President Duterte says Filipinos must emulate the traits of Rizal, such as being faithful and loyal to the country. He adds that as in Rizal's time, he fought for the country's independence. Filipinos must also cooperate with the government in fighting against poverty, crime, illegal drugs, and corruption. Through a simple ceremony, President Duterte led the commemoration of Rizal Day. Before 7 in the morning, the president arrived in Rizal Park, inspected the honor guards, led the flag-raising ceremony and wreath-laying at Rizal's monument. The president was joined by former President and now Manila Mayor Joseph Estrada in the commemoration. The ceremonies were short, but President Duterte stayed for another half hour to meet, chat, and have pictures taken with several groups, foreign dignitaries, as well as simple citizens participating in the celebration.
Okay na tayo. Basta.
Yes, sir. Just take.
Meanwhile, residents in Calamba, Laguna also commemorated the martyrdom of Rizal through the 21-gun salute from the Philippine Air Force and through flowers. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
President Rodrigo Duterte vows to provide aid to the wounded in Hilongos, Leyte and Midsayap, Cotabato. Aga Kaakbay will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte personally visited the wounded individuals in the recent series of bombings in Hilongos, Leyte and Midsayap, Cotabato, who are still confined in a hospital. The bombing has injured more than 30 people. Most of them were watching a boxing match at the plaza when the incident happened.
Di na ako masultig nga no, munang nituyo yung pag-istorya sa military o police kay kaning dua lalog gayo. Isalig lang mo sa pulis o militar. Salig lang mo kay ako na ikasulti ninyo. Nagkatrabaho na sila and they would protect you.
The President and the local government unit of Hilongos have given a total of 18,000 pesos to each victims. Meanwhile, the mayor of Hilongos says they already have identified persons of interest after examining the content of the CCTV footage of the incident.
May nakuha tayong picture, may nakuha tayong tao, and we are matching it to the data of the national security.
The police is also looking into the possibility that the suspect's motives is revenge following the arrest of a drug lord in the town of Hilongos Leyte. After in Hilongos, the president went to Bisayap to visit the injured from another bombing incident there. Despite the recent bombings, authorities call on the public to not worry as the incident are still being resolved. Aga Kaakba, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, Secretary Jesus Doresa says President Rodrigo Duterte is set to appoint new members of the Bangsamoro Transition Commission or BTC in January 2017. The commission is tasked to draft enabling law for the formation of a Bangsamoro political entity as agreed upon by the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and the Philippine government under the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro. The commission is composed of 21 members, 10 from the government and 11 from the MILF. Secretary Doresa initially said that MILF leader Muslimin Sema and representatives from various sectors like indigenous people, sultanates, local government units, and regional government of the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or ARM, will also be members of the BPC.
In other news, the Duterte administration sets to welcome Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe as the first head of state to visit the Philippines in January 2017. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
On January 12 to 13, 2017, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe will visit the Philippines. He is the first head of state to visit the country through the invitation of President Rodrigo Duterte. One of the possible discussions for bilateral meeting between President Duterte and Prime Minister Abe is the loan package offered by Japan to the Philippines, amounting to $2.4 billion for a new railway not only in Manila but also in Mindanao. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana confirms that there are 10 Japanese Coast Guard ships to be given to the Philippines. This is aside from the 4 small aircrafts offered for lease at less expensive rate.
Meron silang binibigay sa ating Coast Guard ships, 8 plus 2 sa 10. Tapos meron silang ililis sa atin na 4 na aircraft maliit na very cheap.
Prime Minister Abe is set to go to Davao City and Manila. Meanwhile, there is no official date yet on when the gathering of the members of Diplomatic Corps, President Duterte's cabinet, and representatives of the branches of government will be for the Vandinur. But this is expected to happen any day next week after the long holidays. Vandinur is a traditional diplomatic function held by Malacanang every Independence Day and New Year. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Department of Labor and Employment fast-tracked assistance to displaced workers due to Typhoon Nina. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III orders all labor regional offices in severely affected areas to provide emergency employment and other necessary assistance to affected workers. The order includes immediate profiling of displaced workers, which is a standard procedure after each calamity in coordination with local government units and the public employment service offices in the region. Displaced workers in typhoon-affected areas are usually engaged with community and rural rehabilitation work like declogging, clearing and cleaning of communities, schools, and evacuation centers.
3 persons were gunned down and 4 others were sent to jail in 2 separate incidents of gun shooting in Caloocan City last night. Asher Kadapan will tell us why.
A police operation led to the shooting of 1 suspected illegal drug user and the arrest of 4 others in Barangay 156 in Caloocan City around 11 o'clock last night. According to the authorities, the police responded to a complaint through a phone call from a concerned citizen reporting about the explicit selling and use of illegal drugs at a residence of Marjan Blas, alias Janjan, one of the persons arrested in the encounter. They explained that the commotion and gun firing was initiated by the suspects, thus the encounter.
Kakakuha sila ng tip sa isang concerned citizen. Upon arriving on the site, biglang nagkaroon ng konting commotion or binato sila ng bottle because of may putok. So they rushed in the house. Doon na nagkaabutan na. They were able to shoot back.
The person killed was identified as alias Onok, and the police recovered about 25 grams of suspected shabu, which more or less costs around 200,000 pesos, and drug paraphernalia. The arrested suspects will face charges for violating Section 11, Article 2 of RA 9165 or possession of dangerous drugs. Meanwhile, 2 men were also gunned down by alleged riding in tandem in Barangay 119 right at the corner of Rizal Avenue and 3rd Avenue past the hour of 1 o'clock this morning. The wife of one of the victims identified her husband, who was shot dead, as Danilo Dumpe Jr., 56 years old, and his company as alias Bong. According to Susan Gallego, her husband already stopped using illegal drugs about 4 months ago when authorities visited them at their residence with regard to the government's Oplan Tukhang.
Pero kaaway po wala. Gumamit ko siya kaya sumirinder siya dati kasi bagong baryo. Pero magmula nung kinatok na po kami, tumigil na siya tapos kaya nagtrabaho na po siya.
Witnesses said they initially saw a person riding a motorcycle roving in the area until they heard 5 gunshots. The authorities are continuously investigating the incident. Asher Kadapan, UNTV News and Rescue, Caloocan City.
Rumors circulating through text messages and social media websites saying canned food, particularly canned fruits manufactured in Thailand or contaminated with HIV virus, have caused confusions recently. The Royal Thai Embassy in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and in Indonesia issued clarifications that the said message is definitely a hoax. The embassy in Indonesia says agencies involved in Thai food industry have attested that the country's food products are safe and certified according to international standards. Meanwhile, the embassy in Malaysia says the message clearly aims to discredit Thai food exporters and Thai products. Thus, the Thai government appeals to recipients of the message to stop sharing the false news.
Coming up, the United States orders the expulsion of 35 Russian suspected spies and impose sanctions on 2 Russian intelligence agencies.
Cubans plug in as wireless internet coverage becomes more accessible across the island for free.
And icicle-laden Huku waterfall gains popularity in northwest China.
More from Y News after this break.
Sa larangan ng kalusugan, naging laman ng balita ang pagdami ng kaso ng Zika virus infection sa ating bansa.
If the travel is not necessary, so they would also not advise it for pregnant women.
Sa taong ito, naiulat din ang dengue outbreak sa ilang panig ng bansa. At ang pagkwestiyon sa kalidad at kaligtasan ng bagong anti-dengue vaccine na ginagamit sa school-based vaccination program ng Department of Health.
Kasi kung ito'y delikado sa kalusugan, dapat tinigil, no matter what, di ba? Pero hindi po pwede yung minsan tuloy, minsan tigil. Ang nagiging epekto nito, natatakot ang taong bayan.
Muli nating balikan ang mga balitang pangkalusugan sa Repaso 2016.
Sa taong ito, napabalita muli ang opensa ng militar laban sa Abu Sayyaf dahil sa insidente ng kidnapping at pamumugot ng ulo ng kanilang mga bihag. Kasalukuyan ding tinutugis ng ating mga sundalo ang Maute Group.
The intelligence community advised me that ISIS was vitally connected with the group in the Philippines called the Maute.
Sa bagong pamamahala, makailang ulit binisita ng Pangulo ang ating hukbong sandatahan. Pero ano na nga ba ang estado ng programa ng modernisasyon at ang planong pagdadagdag ng benepisyo at sahod ng ating mga sundalo? Silipin natin muli ang kalagayan ng ating pambansang hukbong sandatahan sa Repaso 2016.
Expect fair weather this weekend as Pagasa forecasts no tropical cyclone that may affect the country for the next 2 days. But the northeast monsoon is affecting northern and central Luzon, and these areas will experience cloudy skies with light to moderate rains. Caraga and Davao regions will also experience the same condition due to the effect of the trough of a low-pressure area outside the Philippine area of responsibility. Regions of Ilocos and Cordillera will experience light rains, while isolated rain showers and thunderstorms will prevail over Metro Manila and the rest of the country. The United States orders the expulsion of 35 Russian suspected spies and imposes sanctions on 2 Russian intelligence agencies. James Bontuyan will tell us why.
President Barack Obama on Thursday expelled 35 Russian diplomats and closed 2 Russian compounds in New York and Maryland in response to a campaign of harassment against American diplomats in Moscow. An aerial video showed movements from Russian embassy's country retreat in Centerville, Maryland that was closed and where men could be seen working in and around the outside of the compound. The move against the diplomats from the Russian embassy in Washington and consulate in San Francisco is part of a series of actions announced on Thursday to punish Russia for a campaign of intimidation of American diplomats in Moscow and interference in the U.S. election. The Obama administration was also announcing on Thursday a series of retaliatory measures against Russia for hacking into U.S. political institutions and individuals and leaking information to help President-elect Donald Trump and other Republican candidates. Trump, who takes office on January 20, has called for better relations with Russia. It was not clear if he will be able to immediately overturn the measures announced on Thursday. The Russian diplomats would have 72 hours to leave the United States, the official said. Access to the 2 compounds, which are used by Russian officials for intelligence gathering, will be denied to all Russian officials as of noon on Friday. James Bontuyan, UNTV News and Rescue, Maryland.
Mexico eyes border and migration as leverage in talks with the United States. RC Reyes will tell us why.
Mexico aims to defend free trade with the United States by using border security and immigration policy to gain leverage in talks with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump after he takes office next month. According to a Mexican official, Mexico wants security, immigration, and management of the U.S.-Mexican border to be on the table alongside trade when it sits down to talk to the Trump administration. That could translate into Mexico offering to reinforce its northern border to curb drug smuggling and migrants. It might also mean giving the United States a bigger part to play in securing Mexico's southern border with Guatemala, a common passage to illegal immigrants.
Legislators say after Trump's inauguration on January 20, Mexico needs to keep the discussion with Washington as broad as possible.
Trump outraged Mexico during the campaign by accusing it of sending rapists and drug runners north and by vowing to make it pay for a border wall to keep out illegal immigrants. Though bilateral discussions with Trump's team are already underway via informal channels, it is still unclear exactly what stance the Republican will take as president.
No date has been set for formal talks, but Mexico's government has signaled its readiness to engage with Trump. Arce Reyes, UNTV News and Rescue, Latin America.
Issues on racism have been put under the spotlight in the United Kingdom after the Brexit referendum. Jovic Burmas will tell us why.
Racial hatred has recently come under the spotlight in the UK after the Brexit referendum, with racial discrimination cases continuing to appear in the media. Polls found 58% of British people felt an increase in hate crimes, while 76% of people think that hate crime in general has become a major issue in British society.
They have been attacked a lot more than they were before Brexit. We can feel an extra burden of work because of the referendum. We've got more families feeling nervous. There's a lot of uncertainty over migrant rights.
The area with the most votes in favor of Brexit also carries an increasing rate of hate crime occurrences. The most common of these attacks is to tell the migrants to leave the country.
The language seems to be linked to the Brexit campaign. Many years ago, you would hear the term, go back to your own country, go back to where you come from. That's resurrected, it's come back again.
According to data released by Scotland Yard, there were about 1,400 hate crime cases before the Brexit referendum, whereas it soared to 2,300 after the referendum. Many people in the UK are worried the results of the referendum somehow provide psychological support for racial haters.
That there was a majority in favour of Brexit, so that therefore in their minds there's a majority in favour of, getting rid of foreigners and justifying racist behaviour, which is clearly wrong, but that's the way some people think.
Jovic Burmas, UNTV News and Rescue, London, United Kingdom.
Brazilian police suspects that the body discovered inside a charred vehicle in Rio de Janeiro is Greece's ambassador to Brazil who went missing 3 days ago. Reports say Ambassador Kyriakos Amiridis, 59, was last seen Monday evening, but the ambassador's wife reported him as missing on Wednesday. Reports say that the license plates on the charred white car found in the Nova Iguacu neighborhood match those of Amiridis' rental vehicle. An official at the Greek embassy in Brasilia would not confirm that the ambassador was missing, saying that he had only gone on vacation in Rio and was expected to return to Brasilia on January 9. In other news, Times Square New Year countdown organizers say confetti rains will be spectacular despite the pouring rain. Sonny Cos will tell us why.
A rainy day in New York City could not dampen the festivities at traditional Times Square confetti airworthiness test on Thursday, December 29. As the rain poured down, so did the confetti from the top of Times Square Hard Rock Cafe marquee. A youth marching band provided the drum roll to the start of the confetti toss. From high above the street, volunteers threw handfuls of colorful confetti into the air. Passers-by on the sidewalk watched as the thin paper fluttered to the ground.
That's exactly why we do a confetti test, because we've got to be ready in all weather conditions, and there is nothing worse than soggy confetti. And yet, if you see the video and the pictures, that confetti flew beautifully even under the worst conditions. We are so ready for December 31st.
Strauss added that there is an art to the confetti toss. The annual Times Square confetti test is held every year a few days before the massive Times Square New Year's Eve celebration, where 3,000 pounds or 1,361 kilograms of confetti will be tossed onto revelers. Sonicus, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
Downtown Havana residents consider web access at home a special gift this holiday season. Nina Armilio will tell us why.
Most of Cuba's 11.2 million residents only have access to internet at Wi-Fi hotspots, and only then if they can afford the $1.50 hourly tariff that represents nearly 10% of the average monthly state salary. Only 5% of the Cuban population is estimated to enjoy internet at home, which requires government permission. Usually, this is granted mainly to academics, doctors, and intellectuals. Thus, having internet access for free is a rarity in a country with one of the lowest internet penetration rates in the world. Margarita Marquez, a 67-year-old retired university professor, is one of the Cubans selected by the government to participate in a pilot project, bringing the web into the homes of 2,000 inhabitants of the historic center of the island's capital. Marquez's 80-year-old sister, Leonor Franco, was equally as excited as the two sat in front of a laptop surfing the web.
Nunca había tenido experiencia en internet. Es más, ni siquiera con la computación. La computadora la tengo nada más que hace 2 años para acá. Anteriormente eso era maquinita de escribir. Soy mecanógrafa y en la máquina de escribir, pero computadora 2 años para acá, que me ha cambiado mucho la vida porque en la computación también he tenido algunas habilidades para buscar, para grabar y para hacer cosas.
The two sisters live together in a second-story flat in a colonial-era building in Old Havana.
Una maravilla, para mí es como un sueño realizado. Hay cosas que yo tenía en la universidad que siempre decía tener en mi casa, y entre ellas estaba tener, si no era internet, por la posibilidad del correo para poderme comunicar con los amigos y la familia. Eso es importante.
Franco said she's worried the sisters won't be able to afford it once they have to start paying for the service in March. While the cost of internet has dropped in recent years, it is still prohibitive for most Cubans. For now, residents flock to Wi-Fi hotspots that have slowly been popping up since last year in order to connect. And internet access had been limited only to state internet parlors and pricey hotels. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
A non-Aussie crew claims Tattersalls Cup since 2007 at the Hobart to Sydney Classic. Meanwhile, Roger Federer is greeted by fans in Australia as he returns to action. Aaron Romero tells us why.
Roger Federer arrives in Perth, Western Australia, with wife Mirka and his children welcomed by fans. The Swiss returns to action at the Hopman Cup starting on January 1st, which he will play in for the first time since he teamed up with his now wife Mirka in 2002. He will partner compatriot Belinda Bencic, 19, at the International Team Tournament in Perth.
I'm just really happy to be here and experience the Hopman Cup again for what it is. I had 2 great years here with Hingis and my wife.
The 17 times Grand Slam winner said his goal was to get fully fit, and he was looking forward to a few matches in Perth before the year's first Grand Slam starts later in the month in Melbourne. Meanwhile, the crew of the New Zealand boat Giacomo receives the Tattersalls Cup, the award given to the overall winner of the Sydney Hobart Yacht Race on handicap. The Volvo 70 boat was a family affair skippered by Kiwi owner Jim Delegat, making it the first time that the race has been won by a non-Australian yacht since 2007.
Well, winning this is it's the stuff that dreams are made of, and in many ways it's a reward for a long learning experience.
Giacomo's overall victory was gifted to them by rapidly changing weather conditions. The Kiwi yacht finished second across the line behind Perpetual Loyal.
And of course the crew are made up of family. I have my 20-year-old son Nicholas, I have my 18-year-old son James. Both are experienced for their ages and are fearless sailors, and it's an all New Zealand boat, so we're very proud of that.
Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
China's Hoku waterfall gains popularity in northwest China. Dulce Alarcon will tell us why.
The Hoku waterfall took a magnificent sight recently as the temperature dropped well below freezing point and icicles form alongside the raging waters in Linfan City of northwest China's Shanxi province. The waterfall is a section of the middle reaches of the Yellow River and has become a hot spot for tourists and photographers.
我觉得壶口瀑布这个景色太壮观了。虽然我以前在那个朋友圈也看过他们发的照片，但是我觉得你实际来感受一下，跟那个看照片的感受确实不一样。 觉得太美了，太壮观了，我觉得很值得来一看。
The current icicles were formed following a sweeping cold front in the region earlier this month, bringing in temperatures below -10 degrees Celsius. According to the management department of the Huco waterfall, the Yellow River has entered ice flood season, and more icicles are expected to be seen with the dropping temperatures. Dulce Alarcon, UNTV News and Rescue, Jilin, China.
Of course, before we end, I'd like to wish you a safe celebration this weekend.
Yes. Happy New Year.
See you next year or next week.
Yes.
God willing.
Next year, next week. Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Happy New Year to everyone and have a safe trip. Yes, to our province.
She has her own speech. Anyway, those are the reasons behind the news. December 30, 2016. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Gerry Alcantara.
And I'm Darlene Basingan because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching Y News.
This year, President Rodrigo Duterte's war on drugs shocked the nation and the international community.
Do not do drugs because you will be the solution to the drug crisis that has engulfed.
The president even made it to the international news with his announcement to end the country's deep-rooted ties with the U.S.
Your Honors, in this venue, I announce my separation from the United States.
Let us examine the Philippines' foreign policy under the Duterte administration on Repaso 2016.